Alright, so we're going to start out with some Cernit translucent clay here that I am cutting up into pieces. Now this technique doesn't have to be too precise, just chop up some clay and then we're going to add some gold Sculpey liquid clay before we put our gold flake in to give it that sparkle in the veins that this will create. And this is going to make the centerpiece for the stone look. So you're going to mix that up really good and then start to form a ball. Now Cernit clay can be a little bit crumbly sometimes, but it tends to soften as you work with it. So now you're going to have this ball of clay and we're going to shape it into a square. Shaping it into, not a square, a rectangle, a cube, a clay cane, whatever you want to call it. Shaping it like this makes it easier to cut, and it also makes the pieces nest up nicely next to each other when you're laying it out to roll it out into a flat piece. And you'll see that process as I go here. So you're going to bump those pieces right up next to each other. And then you're going to take your clay roller and roll that out until it's probably 1/8 of an inch thick, 1/8 to 1/4. I keep these pieces a little bit thicker because I want them to look like real stone. So then I got my pebble cutters here. And we're going to make those 3 kind of organic shapes. So we're going to do one shape and then we're going to continue on, and these are going to be the 3 stones that you see next to each other on the pendant. I like that little trick to use that little stamp pad to push down. It kind of saves your fingers. I get a lot of joint pain from my lupus, and so you learn little tricks over the years to save your fingers and your hands and lessen the pain. And working with my hands is really good. So I love doing this, but I do take some shortcuts sometimes to save myself some energy. So clean up those edges there, and then don't throw away your scraps. Keep your scraps. We're going to use those to create that hammered metal look around the edge. All right, so I mixed that up and we're slicing these into some more pieces. You're going to set aside your other pieces while you work on this. And so this is going to create that edge. And you're going to roll it out into a long, thin piece. And you'll see we're going to make 3 of these. That'll be about the amount needed to wrap the edges with. Now to create that gold look, I'm using this gold alloy ink. And we're going to roll it in that ink. And this stuff dries really quickly. That's why I like it. It's really great. It dries almost to a powder finish. And if you keep working it and keep rolling it, it's really going to be embedded in that piece of clay. And it worked really well. There was no fade or transfer even after the pieces were baked. So I really like this technique. So just keep rolling those pieces until you have enough to cover the edges of all of your little pebbles. Okay, now you want them to be about the same thickness as your pieces, and so I just kind of hold it up to make sure that it's not too much bigger, too much smaller. And these are my favorite alcohol wipes. They clean up everything. As you know, you'll see them in all of my videos because I am able to work without ever going to the sink. I love it. It just gets residue off of my tile there. So you're gonna put these kind of next to each other, visualize how you want your pattern to be. And again, this will work with just about any shape. So just kind of bump them next to each other to where you can kind of visualize what you're doing. And then take your first piece and you're going to wrap that. But you need to use some sort of adhesion, and I always use liquid clay. Before it's baked, I always go to liquid clay. After it's baked, I use glue. But we're going to do liquid clay today, and we're just going to paint this around the edges. I have my handy little double-sided tool here, and we're just going to put a little to the side there, and then we're going to end up painting the edges so the gold part adheres to that translucent stone in the center. I apologize for the construction noises. Our neighbors are building a house. If you can hear that. All right, so then you're just going to cut it down to fit that shape, and don't worry about that seam, because that seam is going to end up being not noticeable after you put that hammered texture in there. Now I start with my biggest. So I have all these little tools, right, with a little ball on the end. So I start with my largest, and then I'm using 3 sizes because that makes for a more natural look. So I'm hammering it out there with the largest metal ball head, and then I'm going to go to the medium. See, I flipped it around there, so I'm going to go to the medium size. And then the other side of my little brush tool there is even smaller than that, so I'm using that next to just finish up. I use that on the very insides to get that good bond there. Alright, so then you're going to continue this, but you're not going to wrap that gold. You're not going to do like a double layer here. So as you watch, you'll see I've bumped that up to the other layer. And then I'm going to cut this next piece at an angle so it slides right in there seamlessly. And it makes it look a little bit more like real metal. Works really well for it to stay in place too. And then just finish wrapping. Sorry about my hand. I get to working and I forget that I'm filming. So just bump that right up in there. There we go. And then just push down nice and tight so the clay sticks to each other. And we will reinforce this at the end after it's baked. We're doing a double-sided, so there's going to be resin on both sides. And I do that partially for longevity and durability, so just in case those contact points are weak, when you end up putting a full coat of resin on the back, it holds it together and you don't have to worry about anything falling apart later. I've learned my lesson with that. I had a lot of mistakes at first, and so I try to work out those little things as the months and years go by. And alright, so there's that second piece, and then we're going to do the same thing to the third piece. Don't forget your translucent clay there. Again, really sorry about my hand. I could have edited this out, but I thought, you know what, why not? Just okay, so finish painting that edge there, and then just follow that process all the way through. Now, this was actually like the first time I did a practice piece before I filmed this video, but this is the first time I've done this technique, and I fell in love with it. So I'm hoping to do more. I was shocked at how easy it was, and it was also just really relaxing, very therapeutic to do. As you guys know, I do some art therapy. I'm an art therapy coach, and I accidentally discovered how beneficial art was for chronic illness and mental health, and decided to pursue that, get some education in it, getting a certificate right now to be an art therapy coach. So this method, for some reason, just really relaxed me. The detail work, the natural shape of it, it was just really, really fun to make. And again, it helps your dexterity. I love working with the tools, working with fine detail. It really helps keep my hands in shape and my joints from killing me all the time, and keeps my hands strong. All right, so you're gonna finish up that edge, and now we have it. Now it's all put together. So I'm gonna flatten it out twice. I'm gonna do it once right now, and then the next step is I'm gonna touch up that gold. So I'm just gonna put a drop right there on my tile, and then use my metal tool to go and fill in some of those spots, because as it dries and you're working with the clay, sometimes you'll get these little cracks and the translucent clay underneath will be exposed. So you want to be sure to cover those up so they look like real metal. So that's what I'm doing now. And then I'm going to flatten them one more time. You want those tops to be as flat as possible. It makes the coat of resin a lot easier afterwards. And it also just makes absolutely sure that those two shapes are stuck together really well. So flattening them. And now I'm going to bake them. All right, so out of the oven. Ta-da, here are your pieces. And the next step is going to be resin, which is just going to make them pop. You're going to be really excited to see the difference. So I'm going to do a close-up of the resin here. I use my little silicone tool that works the best for spreading resin. When I was new, first starting, I tried brushes and toothpicks, and I was like, this is not working. So little silicone tools are fantastic, and then those alcohol wipes, just wipe them clean, and you're good to go. You don't have to worry about soap and water or anything like that. So that's my favorite, cleanest way to work. So you're going to finish up the detail work of the resining here. You're going to fire them, make sure you get all those bubbles out, and then I set my resin with a UV flashlight before I put it under my machine to cure the rest of the way. I do this for a couple reasons. So it stops the resin from moving. So if you have a sloped surface, I've done this one too many times and ruined some pieces along the way, is if you let it sit and you've got a sloped piece, or if you've got a slight crack in your clay, it'll seep through to the other side, or it'll run off the edge, and it can end up ruining your entire piece. So I've found that working quickly helps tremendously. So I mean, not too quickly to make mistakes, but put that resin on there, fire it, and then set it with that flashlight, and it only takes like maybe 5 seconds, and it will not move. It won't be cured, so be sure you don't bump it. But what that's going to do is ensure your final product it's not going to be all over the place like has happened to me. All right, so I've got my pieces done here, putting it under the lamp to cure. And here we go. Here's the finished side. And so now we're going to do the back. So I'm going to color the back so it's just a completely gold background. I'm going to use my little brush there. And then we're going to fill these cracks with a little bit of resin, because we don't want it seeping through or bubbles coming up. And in the meantime, this is when I put my little hooks on there. So these are just standard eyelets. I just chopped them down so they're smaller, shorter. And so I put them right there in that resin. And then I'm going to cure that. And so that is going to be a really, really good bond, because we're going to do one layer here, and then we're going to top it off with another layer. And it creates a really strong bond there. So one more layer, and then this is when I put my gold flake in. It's little pieces. And this serves two purposes. It's decorative, but then it also hides the little gold rod there. So then once you move this around, you're just going to see a really pretty gold flake pattern instead of the hardware. It's kind of funny, story behind this is I had made these pieces and I was getting ready to finish the video, and I was going to drill holes and do hooks, but I had just laying in bed drifting off to sleep one night, I thought of doing this and I was like, I want to try that, a double-sided look, and I love it. It really inspired me to possibly make more reversible jewelry, so keep an eye out for that because I have some pretty fun ideas for a reversible look. Great for travel. All right, so we're going to fire it and cure it. And then after it's cured here, you can see I am putting on the hardware and the chain. And being clumsy as ever. Oh, there have been days that, so many tries. So many tries. I even got a pair of magnifying glasses and, I still struggle. The life of having joint pain and occasional shakiness. All right, so we've got the chain. I'm going to finish that up, and here is the final result. Double-sided, decorative, so if it flips over when you're wearing it, it still looks good. All right, I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe, to follow me on Facebook, on Instagram. Just search for Maplewood Studios. I'm all over the place. And let me know what you think. Please communicate. Send me a message. I love to hear from you guys. And I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial for this antique hammered metal pendant.